little bit. I don't remember where it was. It should be fine.
I'm sure it is.
Very
It's 2
close.
different episodes, so.
Yeah, it's a completely different day.
It is. It's a brand new day.
Brand new day.
How much will have happened by this point?
Okay. So by the 16th, I will have started my new job. So that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I will be back in Florida. So I will not be...
That is not exciting.
That's not as exciting. And I will be a week away from my COVID postponed honeymoon. So that's fun.
It is fun.
Miami. In Miami. But what's happening in your world in the future on the 16th?
Not a thing.
Not a thing?
No, not a single thing.
Sometimes that's the best. But what is happening is another episode of Haunted or Hoax, which is what you're listening to now.
Welcome to our podcast.
Yeah, I'm Kristen.
I'm Jennifer.
And this is going to be our 3rd episode.
Number 3.
Lucky number 3. Let's see, what are we doing today?
We're doing Amityville Part 2.
Yes.
Hopefully we didn't scare you with Part 1.
Yeah.
Or scare you away with Part 1.
Yeah, it was a big bummer. It was a very heavy episode last episode.
It's not a fun story. It's
not.
Terrible thing that happened.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it doesn't get any better.
No.
This isn't a story with a happy ending.
It's not. And yeah, so we're getting into part 2. I'm going to kind of take you into the next family that lives at the Ocean Avenue house, the Lutz family, and their experiences there, as well as a little bit of a tidbit of what happens after they vacate this premises. And then we're going to go into, Jennifer's going to go into the book, and what am I trying to say? The things that happen afterwards.
I described it as the Hollywoodness of the story.
Yes, the Hollywood glitz and glamour that was thrown onto the story afterwards.
Embellishments.
So, yes. Hollywood isn't known for its embellishments.
No, they always stick super close to the true story.
They're very honest over there.
They use the best sources in their research.
Yes. But I guess we'll get started.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Tell me all about it.
All right. So December 18th, 1975, which is about a year after the DeFeo family murders, and what we learned in our last episode was very closely after the conviction of Butch DeFeo, right? Because you said he was convicted in 75 or 76?
75.
So, and it was November, like just after the anniversary of the DeFeo murders.
Mm-hmm.
So everything kind of like happens very quickly. They're murdered in 1974. He's convicted in 1975, and then literally the next month, the Lutz family move in to the house. The Lutz family is comprised of George and Kathy. This is a second marriage for Kathy. She brings along 3 kids: Daniel, who is 9, Christopher, who is 7, and Melissa, aka Missy, who is 5. And they also have a dog named Henry. So very like parallel, I feel like, with the families. The DeFeo family had 5 children. The Lutz family has 3, but they're relatively young, and they both have cute sounding dogs. So
we all love dogs.
We adore dogs here. This is a pro dog podcast and pro cat. So they move in to the DeFeo family's home. They tour the house the first time with a real estate agent who does disclose the murders that happened the year previously. George and Kathy are both non-practicing religious people. I think George was Methodist and Kathy was non-practicing Catholic.
Right.
And they discussed it and decided that it was a deal too good to pass up. I don't remember how much they got the house for. I think...
Oh, I feel like it was $80,000
yeah, I
in
think
my
it was
head.
$80,000.
Which in 1970 money is not $80,000.
I think I looked it up, and it was about I want to say $500,000.
And just look on the Google machine real quick.
She's going to look on the Google machine.
This is 1977?
Yes, 1975.
$407,895.91.
That's a crazy amount. But $80,000, I guess, in the 1975 range was a steal. Like, they said that it was a really good deal for them.
Mm-hmm.
Which, for that house that was that big with the boathouse and the pool and everything, 400
And on the river.
Yeah, doesn't seem that bad. They decide that they don't care about the history of the house, or they say that they can deal with it. It's not a deal breaker for them, and they buy this house. A little factoid that Jennifer, I think, loves is that they got the house with all of the DeFeo family's furniture in it.
That man paid an extra $400 to keep that furniture.
I'm just saying, maybe they didn't have a lot of furniture when they moved in.
Let me tell you how much $400 is in 1975.
Okay. Well, I think that this buying the furniture is a little bit weird, but I feel like it's weird in like a cheapskate, frugal kind of way. You think it's like a creepy sort of weird, right?
$2,000 extra to keep furniture that somebody was murdered in?
Well, I mean, a dining room table.
A dining room table. Would you sleep on the bed that somebody was murdered in? Because they put their boys in the same beds that the boys were murdered in. Not the same mattress, but the bed frame.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of weird. Like the bedroom furniture, I don't think I would keep. But if it was like I don't know. If I was very poor and I got this house and I spent all my savings.
You were not very poor.
Oh.
Because it's $400,000. And you spent another $2,000 to keep the furniture. You want to know, I could furnish my entire house for $2,000.
I mean, maybe you couldn't do that in 1975. Maybe furniture was just remarkably expensive.
Then get a smaller house.
Well,
I would put my kids in a sleeping bag on the floor before I put them in a bed frame that somebody was murdered in.
That's true. I mean, I do get the beds being really, really creepy. But I don't know. When I read that, it didn't affect me as much as I think it affected you.
She even said something about it. The babysitter said something about it in the movie. She even said it was messed up.
Oh my gosh, we're going to get into that movie and it's going to be a great time. But okay, so yes, they moved into this house. And as a story goes, Kathy is a non-practicing Catholic, but she thought it would be prudent to have the house blessed as they moved in.
No kidding.
Yeah, I mean, all of that angry energy probably needs to kind of clear out with some sage, I would say.
When your house is blessed, do they use sage?
I don't know. I've never, I mean, they just, you smudge your house. I don't know if the Catholics do that. I'm a Catholic by family history. Never, took
I thought they just walked around and put holy water and
they can do that too.
Said some words. I don't think that they smudge the house.
I have no idea. Better Catholics than me, will you let us know on Twitter what a priest would do to come bless your house?
Based on the movie, which clearly we're going to get into that later, and the book, which we're also going to get into that later, they just sprinkle some holy water and say some words.
Say some holy words. Anyway, so she explained the process. George actually knew a Catholic priest named Father Ray who agreed to carry out the blessing. Let me see. He arrived to perform the blessing while they were moving in. And this was the first day that they were there. Let me preface this by saying the Lutz family only stayed in the Amityville house for 28 days, not a full month. But on December 18th, 1975, Father Ray came to the house, went into the building to carry out the rites. Oh, so the rites, yeah. So prayers.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Me neither. Like I said, I'm Catholic by family background, but
I am not Catholic by any means.
I know that I'm a bad person from birth. But when he flicked the first holy water, oh, okay, so you know what? I need to reread my own notes because he flicked the holy water, all right?
What do you think I was doing while you were in the bathroom? I was just reading through your notes so I could read them for you.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, you were just kind of making sure that you kept me on track. He heard a masculine voice demand that he get out. When leaving the house, Father Ray didn't say anything to them, which, thanks, dude. Like, why aren't you going to tell me that some demonic voice told you to get out of my house?
So in the documentary that I watched, it was Discovery Mysteries at the Museum.
Mm-hmm.
They did an episode partially on the Amityville house. The priest, I want to say, I almost called him a pastor, and then I almost called him a preacher, and
He's a priest.
Very clearly Baptist. The priest said that he felt cold in the room and then heard something tell him to get out, and he thought it was a little weird, finished blessing the house, and then went down to leave and told George and Kathy that as long as nobody's sleeping in that room, it should be fine, and he left.
Right. But there's also something that says, like, another story is that he called them to tell them that, and it was distorted by static, and they never really got that message. Like, demons messed with their landline and made it prevented that he
didn't say anything like that in the interview. On the documentary, it was very like cold case files. Like, I'm gonna hide my face in a
so
shadow.
Very dramatic. So the demons don't know what he looks like, so they can't come after him.
Yes, I guess so.
But when they already know what he looked like because he was there.
I don't really know why he was hiding his face. I guess because he didn't want to be part of it anymore.
Oh,
except
okay.
he went on TV for it.
Right.
But he, during the interview, didn't seem like it was that big of a deal. And he did it as more of a favor. Like, he wasn't their priest. He was a friend.
Yeah, because they weren't really religious either way.
But they didn't even go to the local parish to get the, local, what you would, this is just what I know from what I've read. What you would normally do you would go to your local parish, introduce yourself, and ask them to come in and bless your home.
Right. I mean, I don't think that they did anything the way that they were probably supposed to, and maybe that's why the haunting got so bad. But I also read...
Typical Catholic. They got what they deserved.
Right. We're all, doomed in the end. No, I'm just kidding.
That guilt is really instilled in you.
Oh my gosh, it really is. Like, people think that Catholic guilt is only a thing for the most devout, but no, if you just have a taste of Catholicism, the guilt stays with you in every aspect of your life.
We just eat casseroles and hug each other in Baptist life.
Oh no, there's a lot of kneeling and standing and chanting and singing and feeling bad about yourself.
The most guilt you get is when Edith turns around and asks you where you were last Sunday.
Right. I'd also read somewhere, and we'll put all of our sources on our show notes. I also read somewhere that this was in the playroom that took place. The voice was in what was supposedly going to be like a sewing room or a playroom. They hadn't decided yet. Some stories say it was the boys' bedroom. But then the 7-year-old son, Christopher, then went up to that playroom right afterwards, and there was a swarm of flies, like hundreds of flies. And I think that I got this from And That's Why We Drink.
And somebody had left the window open?
No windows open, just a swarm of flies, which, if you don't know, is like an indicator of like demonic presence. Like a horde of flies is supposedly like a demon is afoot. So,
I would just like to, whenever I think about something manifesting like that, I would like to know the process of how it got there.
Well, so I was listening to And That's Why We Drink, the episode that Em and Christine did, and Em did say that the flies would die and then just disappear. like they wouldn't find the dead carcasses of the flies, as if they were like fly ghosts. I don't know.
Like a hologram?
Yeah,
Like I don't think things disappear. I don't think things can just like vanish.
well, ghosts can vanish.
That's energy. So you saying that those are fly ghosts?
They're energy flies.
Energetic flies.
Yes. Like demons are producing flies from their energy, is what I guess this is what they're saying. I'm not a demonologist. So I don't know.
Okay, if we get big enough to get a demonologist.
Oh my gosh, yes. To get an
Can you
interview?
just let me know what that room looks like in the process of a swarm like coming on? Like do they just kind of like one and then two appear? Because let's all face it, the fruit flies that we all get in our kitchen do seem to just appear.
Yeah.
From nowhere.
Where do they come from? We don't know.
Oh, they come from eggs that were already laid on your fruit. That's why you wash your fruit.
Gross.
I don't think these are fruit flies. These are like house flies.
Yes, they're house.
They're demon house flies.
Demon energetic house flies. So
They have lots of energy. They drink all the coffee.
yes, they drink Monster because they're monsters.
I just want to know, do they just like slowly appear, or is it just all of a sudden like bam, flies?
Well, according to the account, it was like bam flies. So I'm just telling you what they said.
I'm gonna stop picking this apart. Please carry on.
Okay. All right. So where was I?
Bam, flies.
Bam flies. Following the visit to the house, Father Ray allegedly developed a high fever, blisters on his hands, similar to like demonic possession, I guess. That's another thing, is that once you've been afflicted by a demon, you get some blisters, some rashes, it's like a really bad case of the chicken pox, I guess.
Well,
and a fever.
The blisters on the hands are supposed to signify the stigmata.
Yes. Yeah. So demon pox. He got demon pox from the house. All right. So we're going to jump ahead a little bit to January 14th, 1976, because I want to tell you the beginning and then the end. And then I'm going to tell you everything in between, because that's how I like to do things. I'm very chaotic, and you can tell by my notes. On January 14th, 1976, Kathy and George and their 3 children and their dog, Harry, left, leaving all of their possessions behind. All the stuff that was happening in the house, they just left. 28 days later, they were in and out. They left the furniture that they bought for $2,000. They left dishes in the sink. They didn't pack any of their clothes. They went to I believe Kathy's mother's house nearby, and they refused to go back. They had movers bring the things that they had left there to a new home. And some of the reason why are the supernatural activity that happened. I'm just going to kind of list off a few things, because I found some timeline, and if you listen to our last episode, we kind of told you to listen to the audiobook. It kind of goes into more detail of the day by day, like dates of when things happened. But George was said to have waken up at 3:15 a.m. every morning, which was around the time that Ron DeFeo carried out the murders. He was waking up like in a cold sweat and waking up at 3:15 a.m. every day, feeling like a sense of dread and very like angry. Yes, I mean, I would too. The Lutz family claimed that there was strange odors and a green slime oozing out of the walls, which is disgusting. And I feel like you would have asked your inspector, what the fuck is that? Like, why is there slime oozing out of my walls?
Well, this happened after they moved in, right?
I mean, yeah, but I would bring somebody out, because that could be, I don't know, toxic mold. You know, when things ooze out of the walls, I don't necessarily automatically believe ghost. I think that like there's a leak somewhere, something like moldy is going on. My brain doesn't go to ghosts, but some people's brains might just go to ghosts. But I also want to remind you of a different house that's called the Amityville of the Midwest, that our B-man, Zach Bagans bought. Do you remember that house?
Why hasn't Zach Bagans done anything on the Amityville house?
He has not done anything on this house. I looked it up.
That just hit me because I searched. So what I do is usually I try to find a TV episode to watch first when I do my research, because it's literally the easiest, laziest thing I can do. And like 9 times out of 10, Mr. Bagans is on there.
Yeah.
Just talking up a storm. There was not any. I bet it's because they don't want him in their house.
I think that he's just too afraid.
I think they don't like him like the rest of us.
Well, that could be true too. I don't hate him. I don't dislike him.
I didn't say I hated him.
You just said he did. We like you, Zach Bagans.
I didn't say that either.
We tolerate you. You give us a lot of content. So yeah. But do you remember that documentary he did on the house that he bought, and they were also experiencing like an oily substance coming from like the blinds and the walls?
Yes.
So I guess that's a very common thing, that demons just make things ooze out of your walls.
There's a word for it. Do you want to know what it's called?
I do want to know what it's called.
Ectoplasm.
All right, ectoplasm. I have heard of that. I have heard that word. It's not a new vocabulary word. I just forgot it. So.
No, it's in Ghostbusters.
It isn't Is it?
It is. That's the purpley goop that's all over them.
Purpley goop. I haven't seen Ghostbusters in so long. I think that I need to rewatch it, but not the new one.
No, and I think I've seen Ghostbusters like once. Clearly it made an impact on me. But anyway, I don't know. Regardless of if I thought it was ectoplasm or black mold, I would probably call somebody to get it checked out on my house.
Yeah, I would definitely get an inspector out there just to be like, hey, there's something oozing from my walls. Like, can we check this out? But I guess they kind of just had all the other experiences of like waking up and the foul odors and the flies. And the other thing that was really bothering George Lutz was their dog, Henry. He would hear the dog barking incessantly, like waking him up nightly in the boathouse.
Mm.
And then he would go down there to tell the dog to shut up. And then when he opened the boathouse, the dog was nowhere to be found. So that is kind of another little bit of a, I guess, ghosts or demons.
Spooky.
Yeah, creepy, spooky. The most disturbing thing I kind of found about this haunting was the demonic, cartoonish, pig-like creature with red eyes that Missy, the 5-year-old Melissa, said was named Jody, who apparently was her quote-unquote imaginary friend, or a quote-unquote pig-like creature that was a spirit in the house. George had said one time he was looking up into one of the windows from the outside, and he and his son Daniel saw this pig-like creature staring down at them. Which, no, no, I don't want any sort of thing that's a animal-like creature.
Now we know why they had hunting parties.
Right. That's disturbing. And your child is like, yeah, this is my friend Jody. No.
No,
You're not
make
allowed to
friends
play
with pigs. This isn't Charlotte's Web.
No. And apparently, Jody is not a nice friend, because a story that they told was Jody allegedly seduced Missy, or led her to the roof of the house, and said, if you jump off it, we can be friends forever. This 5-year-old climbed to the roof of the house.
Friends don't make friends jump off roofs.
Yeah, you know what? If your friend, you know what your mom always told you, if your friends jumped off a bridge, are you going to jump too? The answer is no. Yeah, so that's just very disturbing to me. I don't like it when kids are involved in the haunting, because I just feel like I would be so sick to my stomach as a mother, hearing all these things that this supposed demon is telling my children, jump off this roof so we could be friends forever. That's just disturbing. Kathy was also allegedly getting beat up She had bruises. She was getting pulled at night. She actually levitated off her bed once. Daniel and Christopher were also seen levitating off of their beds together, and actually their beds, which were like concreted at one point to the floor, like kind of like nailed down, supposedly from what I've read, came off of their like nailed down bindings, and the beds were levitating and like levitating off of the floor.
And that's why you don't keep old furniture.
The furniture is haunted. And you know what? I guess I can agree. I'll agree now. I'll concede they should have not gotten the furniture with the deal. There was also things that moved around. They said an invisible spirit knocked a knife down in the kitchen and like almost hit one of the children. The garage door opening and closing by itself. So more of normal, quote unquote, poltergeist activity. And like I said, they left 28 days after these hauntings occurred.
And shockingly, their story is not called 28 Days Later. That's a zombie movie.
That is a zombie movie. I was thinking about that when I was researching this. Like, you know, I was like, this sounds familiar, but there's no zombies in the story. So they're completely unrelated. But those are the claims that Kathy and George Lutz have said went on during their time in the Amityville house. I want to say Ed and Lorraine Warren went to this house after they moved the Lutz family out in February, I think it was February, a few years later, George and Kathy still owned the house, but they had not been back. And Ed and Lorraine had approached it to investigate it. And they wouldn't even meet them at the house. George met her at a pizza place and gave her the keys, Lorraine, the keys to the Amityville house so that they could go in and investigate it. And I actually found a interview with Lorraine Warren about this house. It's from movieweb.com. They went back in February 1976, so 1 year later. And she said that she just felt an immediate, like, very bad feeling when she entered the Amityville house. She said that this was one of the worst houses that she's ever stepped into. If you don't know who Ed and Lorraine Warren are, they're a couple that were famous during the Satanic Panic, 1970s. The Conjuring, Haunting in Connecticut, this case, Amityville Horror, they're all kind of cases that they worked on and confirmed that they are haunted, that they're possessed by demons. And Lorraine is actually a supposed medium. I don't know if you believe in mediums. I don't know if you believe in psychics, but that is what she claimed to be. I don't know if I believe in mediums. I go back and forth every 2 weeks.
I think that some people are more sensitive to energy than others.
Yeah, definitely. Do I think that she was like, some of the movies make it seem like she was going into another dimension trance.
Trances?
Yeah. I am not sure about that. She said that she felt personally threatened by the spirits in the Amityville house, and they had something follow them home brief period of time from the Amityville house, which I feel like happens a lot with them. I feel like every case I've ever read about Ed and Lorraine, or every movie I've seen, like, something follows them home.
How are they able to decipher
what's at their house and what came home with them?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they know the ghosts that are already at their house by name. That doesn't feel like Frank, you know?
It just seems a little
That seems out of character for
the spring goo didn't used to be on our walls.
Right. But they brought in a whole, like, camera crew, photographer. They made it very, very obvious that they were investigating the Amityville house. They did not make it a secret. They took a picture, which I'll post up on our Instagram, which is the famous Amityville picture, but they did not release this photo right away. It took a while for them to show this photographic evidence, but it is just the most disturbing photo of a...
Am I about to see like an Insidious?
Yeah. It is a photo of a boy peeking out from a door by the stairs. And it's an apparition, they say. They say that they all were there when this photo was taken. It was 1976, mind you, so they're not using digital cameras. They're using film. And they said they were all there when the photo was developed. Like, so nobody had a chance to sneak away and doctor this photo, allegedly, according to everybody who was a part of that investigation. And they took this photo. It's a very clear boy, and they say that it is, I believe, Mark DeFeo. Yeah, it's gross. It's a disturbing picture. I have never seen a more clear, if this is an actual picture of a spirit, I've never seen something more clear. It looks like a stand-in, like, of a little boy. And they insist that the Lutz family was gone. They did not come to the house while they were investigating. So it can't be Christopher or Daniel. So did they have a little boy come in and say, hey, we'll pay you $10 to creep around this corner to take a picture? But he has no eyes.
That's what I was going to say, his eyes. I mean, if you used a flash, I don't know how it works on, like, black and white lens, or black and white film.
Yeah. But it's like, even with flash, you can kind of see something. But he has no pupil at all. It's gross. So yeah, that is pretty much the haunting of Amityville, the Lutz family and their claims. I say claims because after this, after their 28 days, they moved out. Things kind of got rolling down the hill as far as sensationalizing this story.
Do you have any stories on what happened to them after they moved out, outside of, like, the actual, like, books and...
I know that George and Kathy divorced.
Mm-hmm.
And I do know that one of the only living members of the Lutz family who still talks about it is one of the sons, and they actually did a Hulu series. I didn't get to watch it, but I really do want to go back and watch it now. It's called My Amityville Horror, and it's one of the sons of the Lutz family giving an account,
mm-hmm.
like a documentary account of what happened to him in the house. And I don't think that pretty much anybody else wants anything to do with it. I haven't found anything that says they're continuing to have any activity. I think that reports where once they left that house, the activity stopped for them. She says she has some secrets she's going to tell me.
I have all the secrets.
She has all the secrets. But yeah, so this haunting obviously spurred on a lot of books, movies. I feel like it's the inspiration to some video games out there. So
yeah. Let me tell you about it.
Yeah.
We'll take a quick break.
Yeah, let's take a quick break. We're back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
You ready to learn about all the things?
All of the things and more.
I don't know if I have more, but I'll tell you some of the things.
Okay.
So the Lutzes moved out of the house. Not moved. They vacated the property.
They fled.
They vacated the property. And then decided that, hey, they should write a book.
Okay.
Like we all do once
Right.
we've had a traumatizing experience.
Writing can be cathartic.
Mm. So they got in touch with a publisher who got them in touch with an author named J. Anson. And they didn't work with him directly, but they did submit allegedly 45 hours of tape recorded recollections to him. The tapes have never been seen by anybody.
Interesting. Like just them giving their account, or like recordings of like things happening in the house?
Just them giving their account.
Okay.
He used the tapes to make the book. The book, The Amityville Horror, which is what we said y'all should listen to in the last episode, was published in 1977 as a nonfiction.
So, okay. Oh.
So it was purely the truth.
Nothing but.
Nothing but. It is not a nonfiction anymore, in case you want to go look that up. It's a horror novel.
Oh, it's in fiction now.
It has sold more than 11 million copies since it's been published. It also inspired the 1979 movie, The Amityville Horror. I was not able to watch the original.
Yeah, I haven't watched the original. Look, you guys, I watch a lot of horror movies. I have told Jennifer before, The Conjuring is actually one of my comfort movies. If I need a movie to just sit and watch and just like feel not cozy, but just feel like I have some semblance of normalcy in my life, I'll watch The Conjuring. I've seen, the original Halloween. I love horror movies, but I have not seen the Amityville 1979. I want to watch it. Now that I've gone through and done all this research and we've talked about it, I'll definitely do that sometime soon, but unfortunately not in time for this episode.
Well, if you like The Conjuring, then this goes side by side, because the Amityville story inspired The Conjuring for the Warrens.
Really?
Yes.
But that's a true story.
This is a true story.
Yeah, I thought that was a different case.
No, the series, like the things that happen in The Conjuring, like the woman looking in the mirror and seeing she looks like an old woman, and the room in the basement, that sort of thing.
Gotcha.
They pulled bits and pieces from the Amityville story into The Conjuring.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Once you read the book, you'll see the similarities, which at this point you should have already read the book.
But I didn't. But by the time this premieres, yes, I'll have listened to the book.
We'll follow up.
Thanksgiving episode. You'll know if I've actually done my homework or not.
So the movie, the Amityville Horror movie, was the most successful independent movie in history at that time.
Ooh.
It grossed more than $86 million, and that's in 1979 money, not 2021 money. It also was recreated in 2005, in which Ryan Reynolds carried the entire movie upon his shirtless back.
Yes, his very, very broad shoulders brought that to your big screen.
Yes, that movie made $108 million.
$108 million?
That's in 2005 money, not 1977 money either.
Why? I mean, we did watch the 2005 version of this movie. Was it because of Ryan Reynolds? Not for me personally, because I don't particularly like Ryan. Oh, I like him. He's okay. I don't like Deadpool very much, so I feel like I've missed the Ryan Reynolds hype. I do like that movie with Sandra Bullock. What's it called? The Proposal?
Yeah.
I do like that movie. I enjoy that movie a lot.
I just like it for Betty White.
Oh, Betty White, yes.
But this movie, The Amityville Horror, had a budget of $19 million. I know Zach was interested in that. It has a budget of $19 million, and it made $108 million.
So it made money.
It made a lot of money. It has a 23% on Rotten Tomatoes, so you are not alone in not liking the movie.
Yeah.
I didn't like the movie either.
Yes.
Mainly because when you look at the movie next to the book, next to the actual accounts, it is all wrong.
It's all wrong.
It is all wrong.
It's all wrong. Yeah, and I mean, spoiler alert, you can skip this if you don't want to know the plot of the 2005 movie with Ryan Reynolds. But I think that they say in the movie, Jody is like one of the daughters of the DeFeo family that was murdered. Not true. Jody is a demonic pig-like creature, which is even more horrifying. If they had put that into the movie, it would have been scary.
That was in the book.
Yes.
Yeah. She was a pig. And it was a he.
Oh.
Jody was a he in the book. And he said that he was an angel.
I don't think I would like angels if what they were describing was an angel.
That's what the mom asked her daughter and said, "You've seen pictures of angels. Does he look like an angel?" And she said, "Well, no, he's a pig, but he told me he was an angel."
Just so, okay.
But she just believed him. So John C. Jones met George and Kathy Lutz through mutual friends in California in the early 80s. The Lutzes asked John to tell the continuing story of what happened after they left the house in 1976, and John agreed. John's first book, Amityville Horror 2, was published in 1983 by Warner Books. Within a week, it was on the New York Times bestseller list, and soon after, it became an international bestseller.
Wow.
And then after that, other highly successful Amityville Horror volumes followed. So they were saying that whatever was in the house followed them to wherever they went. Yeah.
See, but the son in the Hulu documentary, from the review that I saw and like things I've read, he said that nothing followed them.
That is not what they said happened.
Well, he needs to talk to his parents and get on the same page.
We'll get to that. So on June 1979, I'm kind of bouncing backwards a little bit, George and Kathy took a lie detector test concerning the events in the house, and they passed.
Right,
and
I did read that.
Even 25 years later, in a documentary on the History Channel, George was quoted saying, "I believe this has stayed alive for 25 years because it is a true story. It doesn't mean that everything that has ever been said about it is true." It's easy to call something a hoax. I wish it was. It's not. And Kathy was quoted saying things along the same lines. "All I have is my testimony. That's the only proof I have." But they did both pass the lie detector test.
Well, and I will say in the Hulu, the son does say that things did happen to them. He does maintain that things did happen to them. He doesn't say that things followed them, but he does say his time in the house, things did happen to the family.
Mm-hmm.
So, and apparently, I haven't watched it, but I heard somebody who did watch it, if that makes sense. And they did say he gets kind of like emotional about it. So, I feel like it's kind of, but is it one of those things where if you say it enough times, you start to believe it yourself, and then you kind of just condition yourself? That could be it too.
That could absolutely be it.
Yeah.
That could also be how they pass the lie detector test.
That's true.
Because if you can create false memories and then your brain registers them as being an actual valid memory.
That's entirely possible.
This is all conjecture. So the family that purchased the home from the Lutzes,
this is what I want to get into,
claimed that they experienced no supernatural events of any kind.
Oh.
And that is consistent with the Lutzes' story. The house remained empty for a while after the Lutzes left, but when the Cromartie family bought it in 1977 for thousands less than the Lutzes' purchase price, they reported no damaged fixtures, no strange smells or apparitions, nothing. From the beginning, the Lutzes claimed that the force that they encountered in their home followed them when they left and continued to plague them wherever they fled for years after, which is why they had a Amityville Horror 2 book come out in the 80s.
Right. How convenient. I mean, not convenient for them if something is following them, but convenient that, like, oh yeah, of course the family that moved in after us doesn't experience anything. We brought it with us.
Well, they made those statements before the house was sold.
Okay.
That they had been plagued afterwards, but that also kind of goes in line with their book.
Yeah.
Like, you can't sell a book about what happened after if the ghost didn't follow you.
That's true.
So, 2 possibilities. There was never any evil anything in the Amityville house, or it left with them. Either way, the house would be perfectly safe after January 1977.
We can visit.
We cannot visit.
Oh, damn.
Please don't go visit these poor people. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. This has been going on since the 70s?
Yeah.
Ugh. So the house sold in 1987, and it sold again in 1997.
Okay.
And then it sold again in 2010.
Okay.
The only back-to-back selling was in 2017, and that was due to a death of a previous owner. So the person died and the house went up for sale. So those, like, time spans don't scream...
A lot of, like, negative turnover. Like, somebody's, like, fleeing the house.
It does not scream, we have 16,000 evil entities plaguing us in this house.
Yeah. We have no swarms of ghost flies.
One thing that did stick out to me that was very interesting was the investigation that happened by a parapsychologist. And he is very renowned, or he was. He has since passed. But Dr. Stephen Kaplan spent many years trying to expose the Amityville lies.
Really?
He is a very well-respected Long Island parapsychologist, and he's also the founder of the Parapsychology Institute of America. On February 16th, 1976, so shortly after the Lutz family fled, quote, the house, they called Dr. Kaplan and asked that he and his associates go and investigate the house. Dr. Kaplan recalled the phone call, and he said that he was very suspicious from the very first conversation he had with George.
Really? I mean, from all of the stuff that I've read about George, he's a little weird. He's also he didn't get along with the son Daniel very, very much. They talk about that in the Hulu story. He was a very hard person to get along with. And then at the time, I think that they kind of blamed that on him being, like, affected by the spirits. And he also was said to dabble in the occult. So, yeah.
That is not something you dabble with.
No,
you don't pick that up like knitting.
Yeah, they said that George Lutz dabbled in the occult and that he might have aggravated spirits. But I don't understand why he would call a priest and then do that.
That just segues perfectly into this conversation that he had with Dr. Kaplan.
Oh, good.
You want to hear all about it?
Yes, I do.
So I have the quote from Dr. Kaplan, because this was an interview that he had with a journalist.
Mm-hmm.
And so he went back and forth and gave the entire conversation.
Right.
And he said that I began to ask questions, what actually happened to him and his family. George says that he simply can't describe the psychic phenomena, but there are demons there. He even knows their names. What are their names, I ask, and George won't tell me. He claims they'll appear if he as much as mentions their names out loud, which does not correspond with the book, because in the book he started saying the names of the known demons while he was on the phone with the priest, and the priest was like, dude, what are you doing? Shut up.
Right.
So that doesn't really line up with what happened in the book. So Dr. Kaplan goes on to say, who told you that? And George says, I read it in a book. I asked for the title and he can't remember, but he's read so many books since he bought the house. Books on demonology, witchcraft, Satanism, ghosts, psychic phenomena. The list went on and on. All in just a few short weeks or so, George claims. I press him about the demons, and he answers by reciting, quote, facts he has learned about demons and Satan worship. In a discussion about witchcraft, George mentions Ray Buckland, a prominent witch in the area who ran the Witchcraft Museum in Bayshore before moving to New England.
Oh, I want to go there.
I didn't even know that existed.
Me neither, but that kind of seems like an interesting place to go. Not like anything to do with this, just
as a side note, write that down.
Yeah. I'll stop on our Long Island tour.
So Dr. Kaplan says, I'm getting more suspicious by the minute. Didn't George just tell me that he knew nothing of the occult up until the last 2 months? Ray Buckland had been gone from New York for a year or two now. That would mean that George had discussed, quote, the craft, as it is called, with one of the most knowledgeable witches in the country long before he bought the house.
Right.
So Dr. Kaplan's doubts about the legitimacy of the haunting were confirmed about a year and a half later when he received a copy of the Amityville Horror. And they
sent it to him?
Yes.
What? That is just such a, you wouldn't help us, but here's our book we're making money off of.
So the documentary that I watched on Discovery said that he found over 100 inconsistencies between the stories that he told and what he actually found.
Mm.
This interview doesn't say anything about him going to the house, but the documentary on Discovery said that he actually went into the house and investigated. And he, like the following family, found no broken windows, no doors off the frames. Like, if you read the book, that house should have been destroyed.
Yeah.
No black goop in the toilet.
Yeah. No
Remnants of Taco Bell.
Yeah. No Chipotle lingering.
No BAM flies. Nothing. He didn't find anything in the house.
No ectoplasm.
No
nothing.
ectoplasm.
No pig.
No pig. The fabrications that he found during this interview, he kind of condensed them.
Mm-hmm.
The completely exaggerated role of the priest friend was
Father
just...
Ray.
Yes. Something in the book, it was like a side story going on along, like, parallel with what the Lutzes were experiencing. He had, like, the flu 15 times over. And he was calling it the flu, even though it obviously wasn't. And he was, like, plagued with blisters, and he had to leave his quarters because there was such a huge smell of human excrement in his rooms.
Right.
Which goes along with, like, a demonic possession. Dr. Kaplan says that is all fabricated. He said in the book, the priest is stalked by a specter back to the rectory where he is afflicted with boils, bleeding palms, which goes along with the stigmata, a fever, and a pervasive scent of excrement. In real life, the priest did bless the home and did have a concern about the possibility of a haunting, but the real priest and the rectory were unharmed by anything.
Everything was fine.
Everything was fine.
Did not smell.
No, and even in the interview, he just was like, yeah, I went there. It was a little weird.
It was a little off, which is understandable given the actual murder that took place.
Yeah, 7 people died in that house.
Yes, I would step into it and probably feel like a weird sort of feeling too. It would just be weird.
Yeah.
But maybe not to this level weird.
Henry's bar, the scene of Butch's shocking revelation, is referred to the witch's brew in the book. And an imaginary police sergeant named Gianfrido mentions that the police discovered the murders because Butch told the bartender. And that just didn't even happen.
Oh, Frito. Like Frodo. He was on a journey to find the bodies.
On an adventure. So he also said that the supernatural phenomenon that happened is just way too wide-ranging.
Right.
He said there's no way a singular home could possibly hold enough demons, but ghosts, that spirits, that sort of thing, to cause everything they say happen to them. For instance, George claims in the book that a porcelain lion leapt from the corner of the living room and bit him on the ankle. It was a very dramatic scene in the book, Kristen.
Oh man, it's like Night at the Museum. Everything comes to life.
It was very dramatic.
I'm sure it was very, very scary in the book.
You will read all about it.
I will read all about it.
George saw a ghostly vision of Ronnie DeFeo Jr.'s head floating in the cellar. George and his wife Kathy believe they saw the burned impression of a demonic hooded figure in their fireplace. Kathy levitated above their bed. She looked in the mirror and saw a decrepit elderly woman looking back.
Yes, that was something that I forgot to mention, is that except for not in the mirror, George claims, in one of my accounts, George claimed to have turned over and looked at Kathy in bed, and she was an old woman, like a 90-year-old woman, which reminded me of that Canterbury Tale story that I think the Knight tells, which you probably don't know. You probably don't remember. I remember
reading the Canterbury Tales, but I don't remember that one.
Yeah, I remember every useless story I read in high school for no reason. But yeah, that reminded me of the Canterbury Tales, and I was like, that's kind of...
No, in the book, he wakes up and she has levitated, and then she comes back down in the bed and he looks at her and she is just this aging woman with drool coming out of her mouth.
Which is just we're not all beautiful models when we wake up. You can give her a break.
Give her a little bit of grace.
Right.
But she comes to and sees him, like, gawking at her in not a good way. And she goes into the mirror and sees herself, and it's not exactly as an old woman. But she says that she has, like, lines and scars on her face left over, which eventually fade. The toilet's backed up with black smelly ooze that they claim is not from Taco Bell. The walls of the house were covered with slime, aka
ectoplasm.
word of the day. And Kathy and George looked out of the living room window and saw a floating pig with glowing red eyes.
Jody. Which makes me sad because my mother-in-law's name is Jody. And she's a very nice woman. Jody's not a pig in the 2005 Ryan Reynolds movie.
No, Jody is a pig in the book, though.
Yeah. And we don't know about the 1970. I would guess it's something similar in the 1979 movie.
In the book, Kathy mentions that she's had multiple experiences with, like, spirits touching her.
Yeah.
She would often feel a older woman come into the kitchen with her and smell her perfume and, like, comfort her.
Mm-hmm.
And then she would also feel a very forceful energy touch her. And she said at one point she felt the two fight over her, and it caused her to pass out because she said, I thought I was going to die because the energy was just, like, too strong.
Yeah, fighting over her.
She said that she found out that Louise DeFeo had a lover and was having an affair.
Oh.
I was not able to find that anywhere.
Like that anywhere.
So I don't know if that was just in the book. So in the end, these stories of demonic possession were debunked by the following people.
Okay.
The Catholic Diocese of Rockville Center, the Amityville Police Department, William Weber, which is Butch DeFeo's defense attorney, which you would think that he would be backing this story.
Right, because of his client.
Right, but he did not go along with it at all. The U.S. District Court Judge Jack Weinstein, and even George and Kathy Lutz, who ended up recanting certain parts of the tale, specifically the ectoplasm.
Well, I mean, that's disappointing. I want ectoplasm to, like, for once, be a real thing. I've noticed a lot of stories have ectoplasm, and then, like, out of all the things that they could recount, they always recant the ectoplasm. Like, that's just too weird.
Right.
Everything else is legit, but this is just too weird. But rewinding to the defense attorney, what's his name again? I'm so bad with names.
William Weber.
Isn't it also alleged that he came up with the story at first with Kathy and George? I read that he got into some bottles of wine with them and made this story up, and then when he couldn't get a cut of all the money they were making, he was a little bit angry.
I didn't hear that first part, but I did hear that he had many lawsuits with them.
Yes, because he's claiming that they all made up the story together.
Oh, I saw the lawsuit that said that he was suing them for coming up with the story and pulling his client into it. But it had nothing to do with him. He said that he had absolutely nothing to do with the story.
So that must be like another rumor that maybe Kathy and George third hand spread around as to reason to underplay his lawsuit.
Well, yeah, his claims that he had nothing to do with it can't be, like, supported or
negated.
That's it.
Yeah. Words are so hard.
They are. So that's just kind of a he say, she say situation. But there were plenty of people that go in. I thought that it was interesting that all of these people, including Dr. Kaplan, went in and said, this is not true. And Dr. Kaplan is, like, his background is the paranormal, but he is very adamant on finding the falsities with the truths, because when you falsify something, it makes the true ones
harder to believe.
well, easier to believe because you're not going through and saying all hauntings are true.
Oh, I thought we were talking about like he likes to find the lies because he wants. I think we're saying the same thing.
We are saying the same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah. No, we're on the same page. So that's his. So he goes in with a very scientific look on things and tries to debunk them.
And then when he can't, then it's kind of like,
Right.
okay, we got something legit here.
Right.
And he was like, there is nothing legit about these people.
No.
And they are.
And you would think that with as huge of a possession as they had in that house, that he would be all about it. But he was like, nah, man, you crazy.
Well, and it's also like, pick things. Pick 2 or 3 things.
Yeah.
Not 1,700 things.
He said that it was very obvious that George was very well versed and did his homework.
Yeah.
So just a couple of points to bring up. The book, or in the book, there was a story about missing money from his brother-in-law's wedding. His brother-in-law was getting married. He came to the house to pick up Kathy and George. He had an envelope with $1,500 in it in his coat pocket. And then when he went to go leave, the envelope was missing.
Like demons took his money.
They couldn't find it anywhere. And they never were able to find it again.
Well, I read in some of my research that George and Kathy were not flush with cash.
Yes. In the book, they had multiple mentions of George's business. He also never went to work.
You guys go to work.
He went to work a couple of times, but he had this business running, and there were multiple mentions of his business being audited by the IRS, and he still would push off going to work, and he was having money problems with his business and coming up short on payroll and having to transfer money. And he was saying that it was an added stress along with the stress from the house, and how great it would be to be able to find that envelope of $1,500. And it was very odd to me. Yeah. There was speculation that he came up with this story and came up with this franchise essentially because he was going bankrupt.
Right.
And his business was going under. I couldn't find that anywhere. In fact, I couldn't even find the name of his business that he owned.
Yeah, I couldn't find the business that he owned either, and there's no IRS public bank records that will.
Right. I wrote in here, I don't know if IRS audits are public knowledge or not. I don't think they are.
I don't think they are either. But yeah, I just imagine, your envelope of cash goes missing and your brother-in-law's like, oh, sorry.
He was the ghost.
Those are the demons that live in my house. They're so crazy.
Those demon flies. The family states that the movie and book, quote, only netted about $300,000.
I think that's right.
However, when you look at that $300,000 in today money, not 1970s money, that is $1.3 million.
That is a good payday.
Yes. George and Kathy divorced in 1988, but apparently they, remained cordial to each other, and they have both since passed away.
Yeah, I think that the only one that's still pretty public is, I believe, Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
I was never any. I would like Melissa's perspective on it. The little girl, because she seemed to have the pig. Yes, she had the pig. She seemed to be communicating with a lot of the spirits, talking to them. So I would want to talk to her and be like, okay, who did you really see? Was it a pig? What did you talk about? Was he an angel? What's going on?
How did you climb up on that roof?
Right. How did you get up there? And were you scared once you realized that you were up there? Because I am a little bit afraid of heights. I'm a rather tall person, but I feel like if I was just in a trance and then woke up and came to on a roof, no, there's no way.
No, climbing on a roof is not something that I would ever go about doing.
Yes. Now in my 30s. I did do some roof climbing when I was a teenager.
So in the end, ultimately, I feel like this story just ended up pulling away from the actual terrible thing that happened in the house, which no one can deny happening. No, and I think that it is a very overblown story, the Lutz story, and it takes away from the DeFeo family tragedy, but also there could have been
some negative energy in that house just from not only the DeFeo murders, but the obvious, like, violent, volatile, like, treatment that Mr. DeFeo treated his family with. That could absolutely be a lingering thing in the house that could have made some things happen, I think, but not everything that happened in Lutz's story, for sure.
No, and in the movie, they hinted to it being like some torture chamber, which just is not true. There's nothing in that basement.
No.
And in the book, they mentioned that there was some Native American potential, like, burial ground.
Well, it's a some sort of Native American. What I got out of it, Ed and Lorraine claimed it was like some sort of Native American, like, halfway house or something, something of that nature. It was something that housed Native Americans, and like, a lot of them perished there. But
the Amityville Historical Society and the local tribe, I don't remember their name, but that would have been in that area, came through and said none of that happened there.
No. So it's just not true. Yeah. So I mean, as far as this whole being true to the Lutz story, I think it's a hoax. I don't think that Amityville, the house, is as haunted as they say. Do I want to buy that house with, seven people murdered in it? No.
Six?
Six, because
I said 7 earlier, but it's 6.
Yes, 6 people having died so horrifically there. No, I don't think that I would ever feel comfortable in a house like that. Even though it's beautiful, I just feel like the history, the actual real history,
Important
is a
question.
little bit heavy.
Would you keep the furniture?
I would not keep the furniture.
That is the correct answer. Thank you for playing. No, I think that it is a hoax. I think that it was very convenient that for something as traumatizing as that to happen in a span of 28 days and something that would make your family flee their home.
Yeah.
And then you continue to get story after story and paycheck after paycheck and author after author to go in and help you, build up this franchise is a little suspicious.
And the other thing is that even with Ed and Lorraine, even though Lorraine is saying that she was terrified and she had such a sick feeling, it was like one of the most horrifying houses that she's ever been in, they don't ever make specific claims of what happened to them, except for something that followed them home. And then they only have this one picture, which is a disturbing picture, which I'll again put it on our Instagram, but it's only one. Like, I feel like,
and it came out years later.
Yeah, and if I feel like if you had this whole production come with you, these camera people and like these video recordings, you would have something more and you would want to share it to give legitimacy to the story.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't think it's possessed by demons. I think that if whoever's living there now is having a good old time, probably has maybe not a $14,000 speedboat, but has a boat in the boathouse.
Yeah.
Hopefully they have a dog.
Yeah.
The other families had dogs, so I feel like it's a good place for dogs, except for the Ryan Reynolds one.
Oh.
I just reminded Jennifer of the most bummer part of that movie.
That's the worst part.
It's the worst part.
I don't know, her sticking her finger in that girl's gunshot.
Oh my gosh.
That
was awful too. And the babysitter in general being like dressed like she was ready
major
to...
creeper. If I had said, ooh, let me take your jacket off for you, and I saw my babysitter wearing that, I'd be like, ooh, let me put that on and give you a ride home.
Yeah. Let me put this back on you, zip it up to your neck, and then drive you home, because you're not going to be watching me. I think he was like probably 13 in that movie. And then she was like smoking weed and like
asking him if he French kissed,
like coming on to my child. No.
Not okay. Big creeper vibes.
She did not deserve to have her finger put into a bullet hole though. So.
No. I recommend you read the book, not watch the movie.
Yeah, or maybe watch the 1979 movie. I don't know. We'll tell you if we watch it
that eventually
and tell you if it's worth it. But
But yeah, I know. I think that is a hoax.
Yes. Which is 2 hoax in a row. We've chosen two places that we think kind of don't have the things going on that they say that they're going on. I promise it's not going to always be that.
Okay, so I think that Abercorn could have things happening.
Like poltergeist kind of things.
But not with the stories that the ghost tours are saying.
Okay. But you don't believe anything is going on in Amityville?
No.
Okay.
No.
I agree. I'm just saying. I'm great.
I have very strong feelings about George Lutz. And I can't explain why I dislike the man so much.
I have probably similar feelings. Not as many feelings as I have for Butch DeFeo. But probably similar feelings. I mean, it was just 3, I guess, if you count Ron Sr. 3 kind of bad dudes in that house in a very short period of time. Like,
hopefully they have very nice women owners at this point.
Yes.
Just a couple cats.
You know, they have little canoes that they take out onto the lake.
She has one of those backpacks with a bubble window.
Oh, I want one of those for my cat. I have that on my wish list for Christmas.
Maybe Santa will bring it for you.
Maybe Santa will. I believe Santa and believed in Santa for a really long time, and Jennifer's the reason why I don't believe in Santa anymore.
I'm here to tell all the truths to you.
She's been giving me the facts since the very beginning. But yeah, so that is the Amityville Horror. It was a big story.
It was a big story. It was
a lot.
No. So what's your stage moment mail?
All right, since I got my phone, hold on one second. I know this is not going to be coming out as our pre-Thanksgiving episode, but I still have a BuzzFeed. I was going through this BuzzFeed article of like Thanksgiving fails. So I wanted to read this one because I'm not going to be with my family on Thanksgiving. I know that a lot of people will be with their dysfunctional family on Thanksgiving, but one of them really caught me, and it was from Nicole Schaefer, submitted through Facebook, and it said, "One Thanksgiving, my father, who was drunk, stole the Thanksgiving turkey, ran through the trailer with it holding it like a football, screaming, 'See you later, fuckers.'"
Oh.
And then, that was not all. He then tried to squeeze out of the window and got stuck. 6 hours later, 1 shattered window and 4 firemen, he was free.
Why didn't he just let go of the turkey?
I don't know. Why did you try to go out the window? Like, what? I don't think I've had drunk relatives at Thanksgiving, but none of them have tried to punt the turkey and then jump out, I guess, a window smaller than them and get stuck. I think that's hilarious, though. I want more stories like that. Your family just acting crazy.
hauntedorhoaxpod@gmail.com.
Yes. Send those in. And I want to say any ghost mishaps. Like if you were staying in a house and you got creeped out and just turned out to be the Christmas tree. Like that one vine. Or
that ugly Christmas sweater that you had hanging up was not a poltergeist in the corner of your room.
Yes, exactly.
So my sage moment is about this new restaurant.
Okay.
Called Karma.
Okay.
They have no menus.
All right.
Because you get what you deserve.
No. What if I don't want what they're serving?
But it's what you deserve. So
no.
That's all that you get. I'm going to come up with something other than bad jokes to tell you during my sage moments. But I
like them, though. I enjoy the bad jokes. I enjoy the good jokes. I enjoy all the jokes in between. The dad jokes.
You like the good jokes, the bad jokes, and the good soup.
Yes, the good soup.
Well, that's, I think, all the soup that we have for y'all tonight.
Yeah, this is the Daily Soup. No, that's not what our podcast is.
That's a different podcast.
That's a different podcast, and we're not creating any more podcasts. This is the only one.
This is all that you get.
Maybe. I don't know.
No, that's all you get.
But remember to rate and review this on Apple Podcasts. Remember, we're on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Facebook, anywhere pretty much where you get your podcasts. So if you want to share this with a friend, You just need to let them know to follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and they can find us very easily. We also have a Facebook page.
And a website eventually.
Eventually we'll have
Once
a
our
website.
web developer gets to it.
Yes.
That's me.
She's doing so much. She's doing the editing. I'm just here to give you my voice and...
You do the social media.
Yeah, and I do the social media and the moral support.
This is a 2-woman show.
It is. And I think we're going to keep the next episode subject a mystery.
Yes.
Mostly because we don't know yet. So stay tuned.
We'll figure it out by next week.
Yeah, and then you'll have a fun little Tuesday before Thanksgiving. You can put it in and listen to it while you're drowning out your crazy aunt's rants. So,
yes.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.